So this is Battlefield 5. I have issues with this game. I really wanted this to succeed, to have a whole new Battlefield brought back to the World War II setting with the Frostbite engine in its current state, to see how DICE would continue to perform after Battlefield 1. While that game might have been criticized for not being a true World War I game, it didn't have to be. It was a fun, unique romp where it seemed that DICE put in a lot of effort and heart into creating a Battlefield experience that has been missing for quite some time. But to best describe the tribulations and confusion that is Battlefield 5, it's that one scene in SpongeBob where he rips his pants after pretending to drown. It might be best to start from the beginning. DICE was in a bit of a rough spot back in the mid-2010s. Battlefield 4 was massively pushed out the door, revealing a disastrous game that barely ran on all platforms and would need patching for many months to follow. Star Wars Battlefront 2015 was considered a substandard game, but lacking in content, customization options, and baffling design choices. And Mirror's Edge Catalyst was seen as a slap in the face to fans of the original cult classic. Desperately seeking a win, the company approached their overlords at EA asking for permission to work on a project that they have been wanting to bring to life for years. I'm not going to go too deep about Battlefield 1, there's a video or two already detailing that. But to make this short, Battlefield 1 received a glowing reception, with great post-launch content and support that kept the game running smoothly even to this day. With the success of 1, DICE turned their attention to Battlefront 2, a retread to make things right for the fans that wanted the experience they had back in 2005. Unfortunately, due to the grand plans Wilson the Pack had, the game launched in 2017 with boisterous hate, with community backlash being so loud that it has had a prolonged effect on the industry even to this day. DICE also had to step in and help with Andromeda's development since BioWare was forced to use the Frostbite engine, an engine that the studio never used before. An engine that most devs are not familiar with due to its complexity. And to top off DICE's ever-piling work, they were developing the next major Battlefield game. Most game studios make their announcement of a new game with a trailer, an article on a news site, a tweet, to name a few examples. Someone, whether it be DICE or EA, decided to make an episode of Trevor Noah in order to announce 5.
I'm a stand-up, I'm the Daily Show host, I'm an author, I'm a producer, but first and foremost, I'm a gamer.
This tie-in left fans and non-fans baffled as to why a very fortunate Hollywood celebrity with a comedy show dealing with real-world events being involved with a game reveal. Rewatching this infamous event, it seemed no one really wanted to be there. Noah just wanted his check and to leave the blue and orange studio. There is some interesting information involving the development of the game, some beautiful artwork even, but that's something you can easily save to talk about in a dev diary in a completely different video. You don't need 30 minutes of this in order to reveal a game. Well, after all the talk, the world finally got a true look at what Battlefield 5 would be like.
Find cover! Bloody move!
What is this?
The reveal trailer might have caused even more confusion than the Daily Show segment. The concept artwork and developer commentary shown just moments ago described the team as being truly passionate about the era and wanting to create that same level of tension and brutality of the actual war. When the trailer played, it was like watching the infamous Furious 4 reveal. It's completely tone deaf. Amputees with prosthetic, almost robotic arms, characters belting goofy sounding quips, neon face paint, a katana in the western front, and the non-stop action that edges over comedic levels. Battlefield 1's reveal trailer might have had the same meme potential with the remixed version of Seven Nation Army, but I would argue that that was crafted in a way that highlighted the brutality and horrors of the First World War. But for 5, it feels all over the place with no real focus on what the game wanted to be. The fallout from the reveal led to much discussion about what the final product would be. and if it would be even worth the money. EA and DICE also had to deal with a vocal minority demanding the removal of women, claiming that it wasn't historically accurate. The best thing they could have done is just simply ignore this crowd and let it yell into the echo chamber. Unfortunately, the companies took the bait and decided to combat them, only fueling the fire and dragging YouTubers and people who thought the argument was overblown. Ah well, at least Joe made some money out of it. Meanwhile, the more pressing concerns of the game's vision were left unanswered. Later trailers following the infamous reveal seemed to return back to a proper narrative, ditching any correlation with the former. Didn't silence the vocal minority, but it was a good start. A closed alpha and a public beta later, the game finally launched. Disastrously. Low sales numbers, buggy gameplay, and missing content equated to a game clearly rushed out the door. Tides of War, which was essentially a free battle pass with weekly objectives to earn rewards, wasn't included into the game until 2 months after launch. Firestorm and Practice Range were missing, only a few maps were available at launch, and to top off the embarrassment, the single player was missing one of the campaigns. But that was then, and this is now. Flash forward to today, the game has been updated. All the maps and content have been added in, so let's judge the game as it is now. Has it gotten better? No. To say that this game has had a turbulent existence would be generous. 5 has had one of the most painful existences I've ever seen in an EA product. Well, one of them at least. DICE decided to bring back the war stories originally introduced in 1. I personally liked the war stories in 1. There are some problems and some odd choices of storytelling and AI logic, but I did enjoy them enough to have a good time, with Black Bess and Friends in High Places being the most enjoyable to me. For 5, DICE explicitly stated that they wanted to focus on stories that were not as well known, so there would be no D-Day, no Battle of Britain, nor Iwo Jima-like battles. Direction-wise, this is a positive. Execution-wise, it's questionable. The first campaign is not necessarily a campaign, it's a prologue mission, which plays out nearly exactly like the prologue mission from BF1, beat for beat. I do like how it opens, where it showcases the 2 soldiers staring at one another from the last game, and the narrator explains that we learned how horrible war can be, but humanity forgot. It's a nice touch, but then it instantly loses its awe because we've already seen this before. You can't pull off the exact same thing twice and expect the same emotional impact. The actual first campaign tells the tale of a British convict recruited by a grizzled, high-ranking officer asking for him and his explosive-making skills for a secret mission. In return, he won't have to serve jail time. It's an alright story between young and old, but it's not necessarily original, and there are points in which the story becomes insanely overblown. Pretty sure that this is just the runner retold. The next campaign is called Nord. Goddamn, I'm gonna have to look up this fucking word. Norlease is a story inspired by the real-world event of Operation Gunnerside. I highly recommend looking up the specifics of this event, but to make things brief, the operation was led by a team of SOE commandos tasked with destroying a plant located in Nazi-controlled Vemork. I just can't. It's 3:55, okay, leave me alone. A resource used for the development of nuclear weapons. Now the game's version of this is, oh wait, hold on. Oh, sorry, that's my controversy alarm. It goes off when there's a controversy. I thought I put this on silent. Okay, the only way to shut it up is for me to talk about it. Okay, fine, let me try to explain this. Some of the community had the idea that this campaign was trying to rewrite history. People were saying that DICE purposely changed the events of Gunnerside in order to promote some sort of woman-praising agenda by removing the original commandos and replacing them with a teenage girl. Surface level, this seems like a fairly damning issue. In actuality, it isn't. The campaign states that it takes place not during the events of Gunnerside, but right after the events of Operation Grouse, in which a previous British SOE commando team tried to sabotage the facility, but failed and were either killed or captured. Astrid, the mother of your character, Solvig, is one of the leading scientists of the plant and tried to help the Grouse Commandos. As for Solveig, she is just a resistance member and her main goal is to save her mother, only learning about the heavy water after finding her mother. The campaign wasn't trying to rewrite Gunnerside, but merely be an interpretation of a different event, so congratulations. You freaked out over nothing. There are some moments I really like within this campaign. The skis are very fun to use, make me wish DICE would venture into something like Steep. There are some beautiful environments, and the second act has a great tense moment where you have to find sources of heat while trying to evade German patrols. Where I have issues is with the storytelling itself. Lieutenant Weber comes off as being frail rather than a true leader. Solveig kinda gives off Mary Sue vibes, especially after surviving the fall from the bridge. And the climax of the story ends with a cutscene that could have easily been gameplay. The last two campaigns, though, are, in my opinion, the most compelling and interesting. Oh god, it's French! Tirailleur follows the tale of Dime, a soldier and a part of the Tirailleur, which is a unit of Senegalese infantry under the command of the French military. He wants to be in the front lines and fight for the glory of defeating the Nazis, while his friend Idrissa, an older, more experienced soldier, warns him that war isn't glorious. At first, the French give the Tirailleur the task of fortifying trenches and remedial work, while the main French force fights the front lines. This changes when a French captain instructs Dime and his unit to destroy some AA and to capture a chateau. Being someone who enjoys looking into history, especially into the events of World War II, this had me hooked. Subtle moments show the lack of respect for the Tirailleur, with lack of combat experience, shoddy outdated equipment, and being used as cannon fodder. Is it flawless? Absolutely not. Since Dime is a rookie, I wish there was some sort of penalty in accuracy of weapons or slower reloading in gameplay. But when it comes to the story, this is much, much stronger than Under No Flag or Nordlies. Oh god, these words. The last campaign is the one that didn't come out until a month after launch. The Last Tiger follows a Tiger tank crew in the final moments of the war in Cologne. While doing some research, I found this article from the AV Club claiming that this campaign is trying to sympathize with Nazis, to which I reply, okay, look, the point in all of these campaigns is to show the individuals involved, their sacrifices and lessons learned during the war. The Last Tiger clearly shows that while yes, Muller and his crew are still following orders from the Nazi high command, there is some level of distrust in what they follow. Hartmann is seen to be terrified out of his mind. Kurtz is questioning the near suicidal directions that high command is giving them, and Muller, while he does follow orders from high command, he only really cares about the safety of his crew, questioning his role after seeing civilians flee from the tank while a megaphone bursts messages that Nazis will protect them, and Hartmann being hung for desertion. The only member of the crew that is holding on to the Nazi ideas is Schroeder, who maniacally is touting that there is no room for surrender. I think the writer of this article would have had a point if the remaining crew had made it out of Cologne by crossing the bridge, but they don't. Kurtz gives up after the tank becomes inoperable. Muller tries to surrender after seeing Kurtz being shot by Schroeder and seeing the scale of the American force coming after them, only to meet the same fate as Kurtz. Most of the crew knew what they originally stood for had flaws, and maybe should have surrendered in order to either pay for their crimes or assist the Allies.
All of the campaigns, gameplay-wise, kind of play out the same and suffer the same issues that Battlefield 1 did. Stealth is inconsistent, with enemies being able to spot you in some of the most baffling ways. AI awareness is faulty, levels feel empty, 2 of the campaigns are serviceable at best, and Battlefield 1 had 6 playable campaigns compared to Battlefield 5's 5 campaigns. Epilogue? That's just a cutscene. I know that it's expected that Battlefield campaigns are meant to be forgettable or ignored, but DICE has shown that they are capable of writing memorable stories and characters. And I can't say don't make single player campaigns if you're not going to even try, because in some cases they are trying.
I can explain.
So now we get to the multiplayer and its gameplay. One of the only reasons people still play any Battlefield game. To this date, there are 4 different games, excluding 5, in the franchise with fairly active player bases on PC. What are the reasons to play Battlefield 5's multiplayer? Well, in my mind, there are several. 5 is definitely one of the best looking games on the market. What makes it so impressive is that despite the sheer scale of the maps, the detail remains absolutely insane. Ships firing in the distance, explosions knocking up particles of sand, mud, dirt, brick, leaves, cement, tank turrets shooting up into the air, strafing runs knocking up dirt and water, and that's just the visual. The sound in this game is unbelievable.
Yeah! Capture the objective!
Having a good pair of speakers or headphones, you truly become immersed into the battles taking place. And with those aforementioned listening devices, give the OST a listen. I thought that Johan Söderqvist and Patrik Andrén blew me away with BF1's soundtrack, and it could never be topped. I'm happy to report that I was very wrong. Gameplay mechanics have also changed quite dramatically. Keeping many elements that have been introduced in 1, 5 brings in new changes to how squads work. There are 5 people per squad, with one of them being the squad leader. Squads in general feel more important and tactile to the game overall. One element that is new is that squad members can revive each other regardless of class, though the revive process is longer compared to the medic, so making sure that an area is secure or protected while you help a squad mate up is important. As you fight, your squad earns requisition points, which the leader can then spend on all sorts of things such as health and ammo drops, artillery strikes, and of course, the V1 rocket.
Yes, sir.
Oh, God. Oh. Thanks.
Oh my god.
Jesus.
Which causes massive destruction, denies revives to the other team, and knocking back anyone who is fortunate enough to survive. Knocking back isn't limited to just the rocket. Any explosion large enough or using the lunge mine can knock you on your back, though it does not happen too often to the point where it can become irritating. Tank combat has also changed quite a bit as well. Instead of having tanks that can spin their turrets as fast as a CSGO player flicking to a target, tanks are now big and slow, and getting into tank v tank scenarios is truly enjoyable. Playing combat is pretty great too, better if you're good at it. I'm not the best at flying, but if you practice enough, you can be an absolute menace. Fighters like the Mustang can be fitted with anti-infantry weapons like cannons and bombs so that they're not just exclusively for air-to-air combat. Bombers like the Ju-88 feel heavy and slow, but can be packed to the brim with bombs, large and small. Speaking of outfitting, there are a good amount of customization options for nearly everything. You can edit weapons and vehicles to fit your playstyle, with all sorts of different buffs and changes to your equipment. Bigger bombs, accuracy improvements, replacing the MG on a tank with a flamethrower, fixed bayonets, explosive cannons. You have plenty of options. You can also run around with literally nothing for some reason. And if you're interested, you can personalize everything with skins that you can earn by completing assignments or pay for. There are also elite characters that are a little more unique with special endgame animations, a la Siege. These elites can be equipped into any of the 4 playable nations. My personal favorite is playing the iconic Japanese war hero, Robert E. Lee.
Battlefield 5 also introduces fortifications to the franchise. Defensive items like sandbags, tank traps, barricades, turrets, and so on can be built or rebuilt, creating a new element of tactics. Though you can't build everywhere on the map, it still adds in a viable role of people just building stuff in order to help their team's defense. This new system also gives a new role for support class. Rather than just be the suppression and ammo person, supports can build barricades much faster than other roles, build turrets, and even repair team vehicles. Battlefield 5 truly has the qualities of being one of the best in the franchise. Unfortunately, not in full execution. The mismanagement of 5 is apparent, and has led to some serious damage when it comes to enjoying the game. For one is vehicles. Trying to spawn in a vehicle is a challenge of its own, but selecting which one you want is even harder. In Battlefield 1, you were allowed to pre-select a vehicle you want, so when a vehicle spawn became available, it would be the one that you selected. 5 got rid of this feature, so if you are trying to get into a vehicle, it might not be the one you wanted in the first place, since you have to rush and make a decision. And you might run into a situation where you grabbed an AA tank in the last match to deal with planes, load into the next, and accidentally spawn that tank into a match with no planes. There seems to be an issue when it comes to balancing vehicles. Some of the upgrades are so strong on tanks you can take out enemy tanks in 2 shots, so new players are instantly shunted out from tank v tank combat simply because they won't be able to win against a max level tank. This causes these massive long range tank battles, which on one level are really cool, but cause lower level tanks to flee behind a hill, and not helping out the infantry on the front getting slaughtered. Planes are also a pretty big problem. I get that some pilots are really skilled. This is not the issue. The issue I have is that fighting back is a near nightmare. Planes received major buffs that made them faster and more powerful, where they can perform easy strafing and bombing runs way out of the range from AA emplacements and Fliegerfaust launchers. Oh, and you thought being 2-shot from a tank was annoying? How about being 1-shot by a plane? And of course, new pilots will be slaughtered by the aces with their maxed out planes. Also, vehicles take an absurdly long time to be ready to spawn, compared to the cooldown period in Battlefield 1, which leads to people waiting AFK in the spawn menu. Dealing with any vehicles as an infantryman is a chore as well. All of the anti-tank equipment just doesn't do that much damage compared to previous games. You'll need to have a squad of anti-tank soldiers to deal with one tank. This would be fine, but Battlefield has been kind of known to be a casual game, and not a whole lot of people would want to do exactly what you are doing. Unless your squad is a group of friends,
Just as long as they don't get shot.
or sniped. Run, run, run! Fuck that guy! Just let him die! Or can actually communicate. Finding people with mics wanting to talk with you is kind of a difficult chore. It's the equivalent of trying to work tactically in a match of TDM with randoms in a COD game. Focusing more on infantry, there are issues here too. I've already mentioned that infantry has a difficult time dealing with vehicles, and my friends would argue that snipers are the bane of their existence. But one of the biggest issues is this 3-word phrase: time to kill. This has been one of the biggest contentions with 5's gameplay. Death can happen very quickly and sometimes in baffling ways. The TTK has also made certain weapons absolutely useless. While you can still snipe with a rifle, weapons like the Type 2A, MG42, M2 carbine, and anything with a high fire rate and works in short range will dominate the match, while semi-auto or slower firing rifles will suffer. Update 5.2 damn near killed the game as a whole, and while some of DICE's employees have come out defending the move, the changes made in 5.2 were reverted, to some degree. Matchmaking has also become very limiting. There are not a whole lot of North American servers, and when there are, they're usually filled up. On the bright side, there is a high turnover rate, but mostly because there's a cheater or two. It's not uncommon to see servers with someone blatantly cheating, causing one-sided matches to become the norm. How much effort has DICE put in to mitigate this issue? Little to none. Official servers lack even the most basic of anti-cheat detection, so a cheater can have free reign till everyone else quits. Why this is missing is beyond baffling, since previous iterations have had it. In fact, I don't think it's missing, I just don't think it works properly. You know what else is missing / doesn't work properly? Fucking auto balance. Matches can be lopsided very quickly, with a team having half or less than half the number of players on the other team. The only time when player numbers are adjusted is in the next match, and it doesn't even do that right. Now recently, DICE added in a community games tab, in which people can set up their own servers with their own limitations, and, at the time of writing this, for free as well. It's a great and needed addition, and allows for specific rules like banning a class outright simplified by locking out unallowed equipment, ban users for cheating or whatever rules you have in place, and being able to manage the number of people per team. There is also a co-op mode, which is fun for me since I get to enjoy the great game-breaking things from the single player and have friends join in.
Yeah. This is cooler.
I'm sorry, what? The knife doesn't break the window.
Oh, here we go.
My hatchet does though.
Okay. Oh, no, the tank disappeared. What? Sir. Sir.
Oh, you just have the pouch. Okay.
Guys,
Yeah,
I made
I
made a
pouch is
friend.
I like the pouch because you can
No,
be.
you
Oh wait,
dick.
but the
It isn't something to play through though. All of the scenarios are just the same 2 missions over and over again, just on different maps, so you can completely ignore this. The last major issue I have though is with the customization. For me, I truly enjoyed the near gun porn levels of customization that BF4 brought to the table. It was a great way to give freedom to the player of how they wanted to play their game, even if it wasn't the most sensible. What I don't like is this constant push away from creativity and forcing me to go down a set line of choices. The specializations tab is where you go to make modifications to your guns and vehicles, whether it be increasing the fire rate or better accuracy when running around. The thing is, this causes such a limitation on what you can do with your gun and equipment. Do I really need the recoil buffer to be able to change the zeroing distance on this sniper rifle? Does the improved bipod really make a difference? There are many other nitpicks that I have with Battlefield 5. There is no ship versus ship combat like what was added in BF1, no behemoths or level altering quote-unquote levolution moments. The Japanese faction never got more vehicles, unlike the other factions. And why can't I aim down the sights on an HMG unless prone, but I am able to aim down the sights on a Lewis gun, which can be equipped with an extended magazine? And where are the Russians, Italians, or any other factions? And I hate how this game will never see further major updates. But here's the real kicker about Battlefield 5. Compared to all the other games that are active in the franchise, why would I go back to play 5? It is a spectacle that depicts World War II on a whole new scale, and despite it being an action-focused multiplayer shooter, there are moments that are chilling, disturbing, and pure chaos. And there are some smart enhancements that keep the franchise feeling fresh. But Battlefields 1, 4, 3, and even way back in Bad Company 2 feel like stronger, more stable entries, with some having bigger and more caring communities. Hell, there's even a brand new modding platform for Battlefield 3, which greatly expands the potential of new and innovative ideas that have never been explored in the franchise. Battlefield 5 lies in a weird place for me. The spectacle and scale is on a whole new level of insane attention to detail, with some really great quality of life changes. But there is so much mismanagement when it comes to the launch, the updates, and the surprise death only a year and a half later after release. Where Battlefront 2 was able to claw its way from disaster and live long enough to be considered a genuinely great game, Battlefield 5 lies in the unknown. A constant struggle of having sparks of greatness, but being dragged down by poor decision making. I don't fully blame DICE though. There seems to be points of contention throughout management and the workers. In my last video, I teased that I hated this game, and I wanted nothing to do with it. But after working on this project, collecting footage, playing with friends, and just being around the game for so long, I'm not so certain. It's a genuinely fun and enjoyable game, and it does some things very well. But there are others in the franchise that are more fleshed out, better made, and have features that better support the community. As it stands, Battlefield 5 will go down for me at least, a colossal disappointment.